if your goal is to try to attract people to liking you and trusting you and all that, I don't know if that's the right direction, because I have an example of this. And I just thought it was kind of a funny situation. A couple of months ago, I had posted, it was just like an image, I think, in like an article about Cost Plus Drugs, which was Mark Cuban's new, pharmacy venture.
Right.
And I was just showing like, hey, this is what it is. These are the things that you should know. I wasn't saying like every employer and every person should use this. Like, I wasn't saying this is like our solution for healthcare issues. But what I was doing was just informing people about it. And I got so many likes and shares from the people I was trying to attract, like HR people, maybe CEOs, employees. But then all of the negative comments were from other people in our industry. And I thought, you guys, this isn't for you. Like, it's not for you. I appreciate your thoughts, but it's not for you. So that's just something, keep in your mind, like, just be you and look to provide value for the people that you want to be your clients, to be your relationships, and that you care about.
Welcome to the RockstarsRocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of RockstarsRocking, where I have the best, the most rocking rock stars you could ever imagine, including this week. Believe it or not, this week we are blessed to have the one, the only Jessica Dubois out of recently moved to the to a new house, I believe, in the Northern Virginia area. But she's all over the place, man. She's in the DC area, the Virginia area, the Baltimore area. There's not an area she's not in. What's up, Jess?
I'm just happy to be here. We were just talking before this. I think it's really the first time we had a chance to talk. We just see each other all the time on social media and online, right?
Oh man, I've been admiring you from afar for way too long. Not in a creepy stalker way. That's weird. Like, that doesn't count. That's not what I meant at all. Wait, should we edit and cut? Now we'll just keep going.
No. Can we let me make a point on that though, because I feel like I actually became known. I think I got like a little bit of, I don't know, I won't say like fame, but from LinkedIn, because I was just putting stuff out there. And I don't know if many people were just not doing it in our industry, but I feel like I was just throwing it out on LinkedIn kind of immaturely and fearlessly. And then people just started kind of following me and connecting with me that way. So I think that's kind of how you and I got connected.
Oh, 100%. And look, at the end of the day, that's how I did it. I mean, I didn't take any course. I didn't hire. I mean, there are tons, and I know a lot of them these days, that are really expert LinkedIn professionals that you can hire and pay a lot of money, and they'll coach you and train you on what to do, what not to do. And that's great. It's a great business for them, and I respect and admire them. I never did any of those courses. I just kind of accidentally figured it out back when I joined in 2014. And the rest is, as they say, history. So yeah, that's how we met. By all means, we certainly have a ton of mutual industry connections and friends and colleagues and partners, and I'm sure. But yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. And look, you brought it up. So let's start right there, right? Branding, right? There's a lot of advisors and brokers and consultants and friends of ours that I'm grateful for that do listen to my podcast. They tell me they do, at least, unless they're lying, but that's another topic for another day. And they admittedly struggle with branding and what to say and what not to say out on social media. And they go through periods where they're high on it and then they stop. It's like going to the gym for a day and they don't get results and then they stop. So can you talk about any advice you might have for some advisor, broker, heck, a carrier rep? You and I are recovering carrier reps ourselves from different companies. Can you talk about what somebody like us getting started should be doing out there and on social media, specifically LinkedIn?
Yes. I have a couple of pieces of advice. And one is, like, my motto is always think about, to me, marketing in general is thinking about the perception you want to create and in people's minds about who you are. So that's everything from what you like, from what you comment on, from what you post, from what you create, to how you present in meetings. All of that creates a perception in someone's mind about who you are. And so I'm always thinking about, what do I want them to think about who I am or what I do? And so the material I try to create, the articles I write, the videos I create, the events that I do, I try to always think about, what do they want? I know both of us see a lot, on LinkedIn, especially, our industry has gotten a little, I won't say crazy because they're so passionate and I love it, but about posting so in detail about pharmacy and medical and bad guys versus good guys. But for me, I'm like, I think people just want affordable, valuable, easy to understand benefits. And like, that's all I focus on. So like just creating content for your people or your tribe. The second part is like just doing something like, and being consistent. So if you're going to post one thing a week, just do it every week. Like make something that is easy to do. Like before this, you and I had talked about, I used to have a podcast and it's a lot of work. So when you create something like that, you have to make sure it's something that you can be consistent with, right?
Yeah, look, you're so right. I mean, ultimately, too many people when it comes to social media, they just, particularly on LinkedIn, they think it's a get rich quick scheme of sorts. They feel like, hey, I post something and, I'm just going to sit by my inbox and wait for employers in our case or whomever to just fill up my inbox with, I want to buy, I'm ready to buy. It doesn't quite work that way any more than it works that way to go to the gym for 3 days, feel good, and then nothing happens on the scale. Like it's got to be consistency. And I've preached it forever. I know you preach it, and heck, you just said it. But one thing that you just said I wanted to touch on and come back to a little bit is the negativity. And you didn't use that word, but you're right. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of brokers and advisors that, and by the way, negativity gets pseudo viral. Like people love, misery loves company. Isn't that the term? So like when a broker, an advisor, or somebody posts something negative, disparaging a pharmacy or a pharmacist type company, a PBM, I should say. I'm not a medical broker, humor me. But or even a hospital system. We see that quite a lot. I mean, they're speaking the truth, and I agree with it, and I suspect you probably do too. However, I don't know what it does. I can think what it does, but I don't know what it does for their brand to just constantly be pushing negative stuff out there. The algorithm sure loves it. I can promise you that. But like, what's your view on that? I imagine you would agree that it's just, why are you bothering to do that? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, if your goal is to try to attract people to liking you and trusting you and all that, I don't know if that's the right direction, because I have an example of this. And I just thought it was kind of a funny situation. A couple of months ago, I had posted, it was just like an image, I think, in like an article about Cost Plus Drugs, which was Mark Cuban's new, pharmacy venture.
Right.
And I was just showing like, hey, this is what it is. These are the things that you should know. I wasn't saying like every employer and every person should use this. Like I wasn't saying this is like our solution for healthcare issues, but what I was doing was just informing people about it. And I got so many likes and shares from the people I was trying to attract, like HR people, maybe CEOs, employees, but then all of the negative comments were from other people in our industry. And I thought, you guys, this isn't for you. Like, it's not for you. I appreciate your thoughts, but it's not for you. So that's just something, keep in your mind, like, just be you and look to provide value for the people that you want to be your clients, to be your relationships, and that you care about.
You're spot on, right? And it's interesting because a lot of times I see a broker and advisor will post that, and they might have 100 comments and hundreds of likes or reactions, they call them. But if you read through the comments, and I'm the guy that on social media, I grab the popcorn, figuratively, and I'm the guy that's going to post the popcorn emoji. Like I'm going to be like, I'm ready to read these, man. This is good. And I think in some respect, a lot of us do that. But I'm flipping through the comments, and I'm like, 99.9% of the people commenting are all, I guess you could call them competitors. They're basically the same you know, they're in our industry that do the same thing. But what about why you're doing it? Like, if you're trying to do it because you want to attract, as you just said, HR people, business owners, executives, CEOs, whoever, I don't know, maybe they're reading it, maybe they're not, but it's certainly not getting the result that you're necessarily looking for. So I don't know. We could talk about that for hours. I want to move on to some other questions, but I was so glad to hear you say that because it's so powerful. So when you, before you were famous on LinkedIn and had, you know, 6 million followers and connections, you were just a small town girl growing up in a, oh wait, that's not the song. Well, anyway, you were, tell us about your background though. You were born to sell insurance. Is that accurate?
I was not. I grew up in a 800 person town in Iowa. You know, the funny story is like, I grew up in this town. I almost followed the paths of the rest of my sisters who got married at like 20 to 22. But what I did that was different, that changed my life, was I studied abroad. I took my first plane, my first plane ride to Italy, all the way to Italy. I had to get my passport, figure out, you know, how to navigate through an airport, all of that. And I just figured out, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity in this world. I don't even know. And so when I came back from Italy after being there for 4 months, I thought, okay, I need to get out of Iowa. I need to like a new perspective on life. I want access to more opportunities. I want to make money. And that is what led me to insurance. I started working for Principal Financial Group as an ancillary sales rep. And I knew as part of the deal was going to give me the opportunity to choose what city I wanted to live in. And that took me to Nashville, which was my start to the insurance business.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Actually, I've met a couple people, but I still don't believe them. Most people don't grow up, you know, and say, Mama, Papa, when I grow up, I know Jimmy, he wants to be a baseball player. And I know Susie, she wants to be an actress. But me, I want to sell insurance. I don't know really anybody that grew up with that dream. So it wasn't me either. So don't worry, you are in the right place with what you just said. I'm fascinating that your first flight anywhere wasn't like a puddle jumper to a different city in the States or to a different state in the country, but you said, nah, you know, hold my beer, I'm going to Italy. That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Took the chance, and I'm glad that I did.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look what it did. It made you see the world. And then you decided, hey, I need to get out of this small town in Iowa. You headed over to Nashville. And then from Nashville, you continued. So you were, I'm not specifically in the group ancillary space like Principal per se, but definitely you were on my side of the industry more than you are now for sure. So you were on the dark side where I'm at. And then you blasted forward to become a full service health advisor, broker, consultant, whatever title you want to use. And you did that with a friend of ours in Northern Virginia, Derek and his team. And I actually, shameless plug, I had Derek on my podcast. Coincidentally, he was episode 1 ever. I love you, Derek, but I don't want to go back and watch that episode because I absolutely had no idea what I was doing, but I appreciate you being so nice and humoring me. So you worked with Derek at BBG and you were there quite a while. You did very well there, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, if we go back to working in Tennessee, so I lived in Nashville, but my market, like when you work when you work as a sales rep, you typically have a market, right? You got to go within your zip codes or your brokers that you get to work with.
Right.
And so I got all of the bad places. When I say bad places, I mean rural areas where there wasn't money to be made on, like there wasn't a lot of brokers. So there wasn't a lot of business, but I did my best to grow that region for Principal. And as I was doing it, I looked around at the brokers and I thought, oh my gosh, there's no women and there's no one under the age of 50 that I'm talking with. I mean, there was a couple, but not many. So I thought there is so much opportunity for someone like me who wants to come in, take over someone's book or be different. I just need to find like the right space to do so. And so when I met a client of BBG, of Derek's team in Nashville, that was my opportunity to go ahead and move to DC and start my career with them on the broker side.
That's awesome. That's a cool story. And I like how you positioned it and you turned it into a great opportunity, and good on them for recognizing that and bringing you aboard too, because I know it was
Mhm.
mutual for all those years. So flash forward to really the late part of last year and early this
Yeah.
year, you are now the vice president of business development at a company called Risk Strategies. That I know you were telling me before has more of a focus over the many years on property and casualty, but you're now helping to lead the benefits charge as well.
Mhm.
I guess the question is, what was it to you that made you say, you know what, I'm with a really solid regional firm that's kicking ass, and you're kicking ass, but what is it that made you want to jump to something even bigger? Because they're a lot bigger of an organization, and I get that. Some people would get
Mhm.
scared by that, but heck, I'm talking to the person that said, hey, I've never been on a flight, I'm just going to go to Italy. So maybe that's the answer right there, but you tell me.
No, I mean, that is true. That did cross my mind, as in going from a small firm to a big firm. Because there's pros and cons to that. But I think what I did was, during the pandemic, I think a lot of people had self-reflection or periods of it. I especially did, especially last year, where I, looked in the mirror or looked at my current situation and I said, okay, where am I headed over the next few years? Because we all have these goals as producers, hopefully, to be able to grow our books of business, strengthen our relationship with clients. And I thought, in the current situation that I'm in, I'm not going to be able to do this. And there was really two reasons why. So one was because I don't feel as if I had the right relationships with a lot of my clients. I think a lot of them were more transactional. And I think that there is, I would even call myself a glorified account manager in some ways. I didn't have the relationship with the C-suite like what I needed to. The
Mhm.
other side, I would say, is I was completely burned out. And I think some of us definitely can relate to this on this podcast who are listening, but I started to lose the qualities that made me who I was as an advisor and as a part of the team. As in, like, I think that I'm extremely creative. I'm a go-getter. I'm motivated. I'm funny. And I started to lose all of the things that made me the person who I was, because I was exhausted. So I knew I needed to remove myself from the situation and redesign who I was as an advisor, who I wanted to be in the industry, how I wanted to develop relationships. And that is what led me to go down the path to, searching for another firm and Risk Strategies. And with Risk Strategies, I will say, like, moving to a big firm, I actually was always against that. And I think, again, some people can relate to this. I was always against it because I wanted to, like, service is so much part of what I do. And I think about, like, how is it when you walk into a boutique versus like a big store? You want to have that, like, personalized experience.
Sure.
And I thought, if I go to a big firm, it's going to be very difficult for me to provide that. But I think that's a really wrong, misconception that we have in our minds. I think it really comes down to the team that you have within that large organization. And as long as that team is who you need to be able to learn and to be able to help support you and help you grow, then I don't think it matters what big company or small company you choose.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a risk, and everything you said as far as small versus large, I can appreciate. And look, I have a lot of folks that listen to the Rockstars Rocking podcast who are in our industry. They're in maybe my side or your former side at principal part of the industry. Tons that are they're just like you, advisors, brokers, consultants, VPs, CEOs of their own firm, whatever it might be. And a number of them probably are in a similar boat where maybe right now, or it could be the opposite. Maybe right now they're at a small, mid-sized company and they are strongly considering, to see if the grass is greener on the other side, maybe in the large group or the large brokerage world. But then it could be the opposite, right? Let's not ignore that. It could be somebody who's with a similar size company as you at Risk Strategies. That maybe they're thinking, geez, in my case, it is not a good fit. And I do want to maybe find a smaller mid-sized company to go work for. Do you have any tips or advice or things you can guide that kind of helped you with your decision? Because I can't imagine it was an easy decision.
No, it absolutely wasn't. I think you have to look at who you want to be and what you want to be in the future. And right. I see that. I mean, there's going to be moments we all have. Like, I had a couple of pivotal moments where I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning because I'm so overwhelmed about everything that I have to do that day. And that continuously happened. And I started to think, I cannot live this life. Like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. So if you're having those moments, start planning a way out, a way to be someone else. If you can't find that infrastructure within your current organization, then you need to start, finding one where you can. I think that's, and figuring out when you do, or when you are going to make that move, what do you need? Like, is it equity? Is it some type of support from like a salary perspective? Do you need an incredible account manager? Like, what are the things that you absolutely have to have, and make sure you make that as part of the deal?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to what you've been able to do, I think it probably helped you a lot that you had already started creating and your personal brand, right? Going back to branding, you weren't just Jessica from Principal, and you weren't just Jessica from BBG, where everybody just knew you as the BBG lady or the Principal lady. I struggle with that when I left the carrier. So unlike you, when I left the carrier world, I had to unskin myself from that specific brand. So I had no name. I was literally the carrier guy to every one of my clients, my customers, my brokers for 15 years. And I'm not complaining. I did well. Don't cry for me. But when I left and I wanted to do something different, I had to reinvent myself. In your case, to leave from BBG to go to Risk, I think one of the things that must have helped you a lot is that you already had that personal brand cachet. So, I don't know if you'd agree or not, but I would advise anybody listening that if they ever want to move or consider moving companies, whether it's small to large, large to small, or just unilateral, start working on your brand. Your brand is you. It's not the company you work for. Unless you have equity, like you're punching your ticket, which is great. But you got to have your own personal brand. Anything you would add to that or say about that? Am I right? Am I wrong?
You're 100% right. And so I would say that was something I thought about, especially the last year of, okay, it's me. Like, I need to start utilizing my own name, utilizing my own thoughts. Like, I need to represent myself. So I 100% agree with that. Start being your own thought leader, creating content for yourself, even if it's sharing other people's stuff. Like, make sure you're utilizing your own LinkedIn profile, your own social media. I 100% agree. I think that's great advice.
So let's dig in a little bit, continuing on that theme. So I know you used to have a podcast, and I hope you bring something back or start doing some type of solo podcast on your own. I would love to be one of your first subscribers and even a guest, hint, hint. But with all seriousness, you are doing something really cool, something I'm not doing. I am not doing right now, as of the date we're recording. I'm not doing LinkedIn Live. I have LinkedIn Live. I'm really, really engaged with LinkedIn. So shame on me for not doing it. But talk to me about your monthly LinkedIn Live that you are doing and are planning to continue to do, because I think it's really neat. And I need to kick myself in the ass and start doing something similar.
So the idea was, okay, I'm going to do this monthly LinkedIn Live focused on the people who I want to educate and have in my circle. And so that's, HR people, C-suite, also HR consultants, maybe different vendors. A lot of consultants and brokers come on as well. But the topics that I choose are focused on, what would be helpful for them. And so I've had ones about, I think my first one was actually about telehealth, and then captives and self-funding. And then my next one, which is next Tuesday, or I guess it's April 19th. I don't know if I should be saying dates. But
it'll air when it airs. And remember, it's evergreen. So somebody listening right now, it could be the year 2029. How cool would that be?
They can go back. That's the great thing. They can go back and watch it.
Right.
But next week's is about direct contracting with providers. And what I wanted to do was 30 minutes. Like, that's it. That's all someone can really pay attention anyway. But let's make this quick and easy. We're going to give you the overview. We're going to tell you just enough to see if you want to learn more. If you do, chat with us afterwards and, ask your questions, reach out, and we can do that. But I just want to make it quick and easy, make it easy to digest for those individuals who are listening in. And then they can share afterwards. I'll have it up on YouTube. and have it on a monthly basis. So there's just different topics based off of what I think is relevant.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to tune in. I'm going to be a part of it. If you ever have any guests, I know a guy. And, speaking of, something that I'm passionate about, let's segue directly into this, because I know you're passionate about it as well. And that's, look, as benefit advisors yourself, you're a full service medical advisor and other benefits. I focus more on the enhanced benefits, voluntary, supplemental, worksite, ancillary, whatever term you want to use. But at the end of the day, we can put together the most kick-ass plan imaginable, innovation on steroids for every employer group we have. But if the employer doesn't embrace the marketing and the communication and the employee engagement that's needed, then it's kind of all for naught, right? Like, my passion is not about the destination. It's about the journey. To me, the destination is what product, what price, what carrier, what TPA, what stop loss. Like, that's all important. Please don't ever get me wrong. Nobody hang up this podcast thinking I'm disparaging those things. They're vital, but that's the destination. The journey is really making sure that the employees, let's face it, they're the healthcare consumers. They're the end user, for Pete's sake. We have to make sure the journey is paramount above all else. So I like to re-engineer it and work backwards. Can you talk about how you like to market and communicate and get the employees engaged? Maybe give some quick tips to other advisors or brokers that are out there that are struggling with this piece.
I probably go over and beyond here. So some people that are listening to this is going to be like, wow, you're not an employee, so stop. But even an employer that I was talking to today, I'd gone on their website to see more about them. And I noticed they don't have like a culture page on their website. They don't have anything that talks about their employee benefits. So it's something I brought up in the conversation. I said, you have 20 job openings right now, and we know that one of the top couple of things that an employee looks at is the benefits. Why don't you have something about the benefits or about the employee experience on your website? You really should. So I go that far. So I think about how they're marketing to the employees that they're looking to attract to their company, but also as they have the employees, how are we educating them? So we have, of course, every broker nowadays does like the customized or, branded and benefit guides, which are fantastic. But it's also nice to have a couple of one-pagers. So I've seen a lot of employers that I'll work with that have like a 2-sided document that just gives a quick overview of all the benefits. So if that's something you could help with or just suggest to the employer. And the last little tip thing that I do, if someone would want to steal this, is during my open enrollment meetings, I do put in a Calendly link. So I offer up literally like 15 to 30 minutes on my calendar if employees want to schedule a one-on-one. And someone would think, oh my gosh, I could have 200 people scheduling stuff on my calendar. It's not going to happen. You're going to get maybe 2 out of 200 people. Like, that's it. Barely anyone's going to do it. But the 2 people that do are your problem makers. They're the people who ask questions, the ones that are going to complain throughout the year. They're the ones that maybe really need the insurance and maybe they have a health issue. They're the people you want to talk with. Highly recommend allowing some easy way for them to schedule time with you.
Completely agree. And you're right, because I see it all the time is, when we put together a voluntary on-demand call center of sorts, whereby employees are encouraged to use it. It's not required, but they're encouraged to use it. We still see very, very minimal uptick. That doesn't mean they're not getting enrolled. That doesn't mean they're not going through the enrollment portal or whatever it might be. But just the offering alone is a lot of times what people need. And it certainly makes you look really good. Selfishly, we're all for-profit entities and we have to earn a living. It does make you look good to them, the employer, and certainly you're doing the right thing. You don't want to not be available for the end user. It's interesting because I always say that arguably the most educated people at a business are going to be the C-suite and the HR team, the people that we spend countless hours and months putting together these strategies for, and then re-going over it. How many times we have a meeting, they love it, and 3 weeks later you have another meeting and they're like, can you go over that one more time? Because something's just not clicking, right? You could have that meeting 8 times in 3 months. And then it's crazy because how many times does an employer then say, well, the employees can just go on a website and sign up and read a brochure and they're ready to go. And I'm scratching my head and I'm like, wait a second, you're the most intelligent people at the company. I explained it to you as best as I possibly could for, 8 times in 3 months. And yet you want the employee making minimum wage to understand it in a 10-minute meeting or to learn it on their own through a website? Get out of here. So I think communication and employee engagement is so appreciated and undervalued and mistreated. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox here, but I know you agree.
I agree. And I also was thinking while you're talking is like, typically what is it, like 1 in 4 people, it's probably not even that even can explain to you the top like IDA or top definitions within like a benefit summary, like deductible, co-insurance, out-of-pocket maximum. And you expect your employees to know what that stuff is. Right.
No, I mean, what is it? I saw a statistic a long time ago. I don't remember the percentage. I'm not going to say it, but it was a high percentage. But it's all fact where they spend more time researching their new iPhone they want to buy or their new TV, the big screen TV. It's already on sale for almost free at Best Buy, but they want to analyze it even more to see if it's better to save $13 should they get it at Best Buy or Target. And they'll spend hours and weeks and months aggravating themselves over it, but it's a TV for Pete's sake, right?
Yeah.
But their medical, their healthcare, their family, they spend very little time, and it's tragic in my opinion. Let me ask you though, when it comes to marketing and getting the word out to the employee masses, what type of technology are you using? What are you doing technology wise to get the communication pieces out, the one-pagers and the PDFs and all the various things that you create?
It really depends on what the employer has in place, because my goal is to try to make it, I keep saying this, as easy as possible. That's really always my goal. So whatever they already have in place, whatever we are implementing, I try to incorporate the pieces into that. Also things spread out throughout the year. So whether it's reminders about how they have, some type of membership or fertility benefits, or maybe we doing webinars, throughout the year on different topics like HSAs or mental health. I did so many, like what types of benefits does your company offer for mental health? Like I did lots of those webinars last year. It's like always trying to kind of trickle in throughout the year, different communication to the employees in whatever way they're used to. If it's Zoom, if it's email, if it's SharePoint, if it's through Navigator, whatever they have, let's like try to utilize what they're already used to.
I love it. Is there anything new or different or unique that if I'm an employer with an open mind, you might suggest I consider, something that you might not have already talked about when it comes to getting my employees engaged?
I do like the concierge apps. I think that there's a lot of them, but I do like them. And for those that don't know what those are, there's different types, but I don't know if I should name drop here. But there's different types of concierge apps. And the goal is that your employee goes to those apps on their phone. And
there's a number of them out there. If you name drop your favorite, I'll mention 3 or 4 just so it's diplomatic here. But
well, I'll just name well-known ones: Accolade, Health Joy, Touch Care, all these different apps. They all have their pros and cons. So I'll put that out there, but like them all. But it's an app that allows the employee to have all their benefits in one space. They can ask questions. So if they run into a problem about, hey, I need to find an in-network provider for my surgery or my claim was denied, they have it in this one spot on their phone. They're used to having, using their phone for everything. And it's like an easy, accessible way. I like them. They're inexpensive. My only problem is that it's like another piece of technology, right? It's another app.
I understand. Yeah, no, but I like those services a lot. We literally at my firm, we put those in for our clients all the time. The ones you mentioned are fantastic, and they're also terrible. That's a joke, meaning that everything in life, humor jokes, people, everything in life has its pros and cons, right? But we do like all those carriers in general. And there's others out there. I'll add to the list just so we can be politically correct. I mean, Benazon and Fresh Bennies and you said Health Joy. I mean, they're all very much in the same context. Anybody listening, reach out to me or Jess if you have any questions, or you want some real low down skinny, but they're all great. Just do your research and you'll figure it out quickly.
But and let me add to something with this conversation is that someone will say, like an employer will be like, oh, like we got an increase on our health insurance. Like we don't have the money to pay $7 or whatever, $5 per employee per month for this technology. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. You are spending $500 per employee per month for health insurance, and you don't want to spend $5 extra to make it easy to use the insurance.
Right.
Like, you just have to reframe it.
Mind blowing. It happens all the time. You hit the nail right on the head. You're true. It's so true. I witness conversations with my partners like yourself who have those conversations, or I have those conversations with them and for them. And it is crazy to think that, they're spending so many hundreds of dollars per employee per month for this crazy cool benefit. But an extra $3 or $4 or $5 or $10 a month, that'll actually make it streamlined so people understand and use the benefit properly, which, if they're self-funded, is going to save you, Mr. or Miss Employer, a lot of money in the long run anyway. But it's really just rephrasing and restructuring and making sure they understand it clearly, as you know. So look, as we start to wrap up, I want to brag on you for a minute. So if you're listening to this podcast post the month of May 2022, then this may be a little irrelevant, but the reality is I'm excited for you. You were asked to speak at the upcoming 2022 Benefits Pro Broker Expo. And I'll insult myself for a second. I'm speaking as well, but I don't have a TED Talk. I'm speaking on a panel. I'm excited. It's going to be amazing. If you're listening and you're attending, come see me. I look forward to meeting you in person for the first time, Jess. But mine's no TED Talk. So every year, Benefits Pro Magazine, Paul Wilson, and his brainchild is he does a last day of the event, Ben TED Talk type thing, where 3 or 4 or 5 brokers and advisors stand up on stage. They get allocated 10 or 12 minutes or so. And it's something that's near and dear to their heart, and there's something they're passionate about. So I'm a little bit envious here, a little bit jealous. That's pretty damn cool. Do you have any idea what you're talking about? Have you started planning it yet? You don't need to give away any big secrets, though.
I have none. Paul Wilson, I'll just give a shout out to him. I feel like he doesn't even know this, but he has actually done quite a bit for me as an advisor. So I'm giving a shout out to him because I was first named, I think it was like, Rising Advisors, Face of Change, or something like that for Benefits Pro. And that was my
change in 2019. That's a huge deal.
Yes.
There's only 12 of those a year, and he puts you in the magazine. I remember reading it.
Yeah, and that was one of my first years in DC. It was fantastic for me, and I got to meet all these great people. And then I also got to speak at like 1 or 2 other Benefits Pro. Like, he's always been such a supporter of me. So the fact that he asked me, I accepted, and I can't wait. I have not started much of it for preparation, but you have motivated me and told me it's a very big honor and big deal. So I promise to make it as good as I can.
I will be there front row taking pictures, and your biggest fan, I promise. I'm there every year. I'm speaking there. I'm excited. And you're right. Paul has done a ton for this industry. He's very open-minded to new thoughts and ideas when it comes to getting the word out about incredible advisors and brokers and consultants in the space. And for women,
women and diversity, I feel as if I continue to see more and more diversity, and I have to believe that some of it is due to the types of people that he's getting involved.
No, you're spot on, and I've had the privilege of having him ask me for advice over the years, where he's like, "Hey, Eric, you're pretty connected. Who's a great leading woman or somebody of color or whatever it is?" And I just know a lot of people, so I'm not the only one. He asks a lot of people. Don't worry. But my point is, like, I appreciate that he trusts me for that. So yes, this is a brag session on Paul. Paul, you better be listening to this, my friend. And you can buy us a drink in Austin. How about that? Is that a deal? Okay, thanks, Paul.
Push us to the front of that magazine.
That's right. Exactly. All right. Well, listen, Jess, it's been fantastic. I appreciate it. You said it all. For those that don't remember, Jessica is currently the Vice President of Business Development at Risk Strategies. She's personally based in the DC metro area. She lives in the Northern Virginia area, to be specific. You wanted to share your address with her? Oh, no, that's another story as well.
The fan mail can go to my office.
The fan mail can go to her office. If you want to connect, if you're not already connected with Jessica, please make sure you change that immediately. She's very active on LinkedIn. Send her a direct message if you want to connect. No spam. Don't try to sell her anything. Come on, get with the program. But if you want to connect, she is very much there to connect. And or you can follow her there. And I'm sure she has an email address as well. It's probably right on her LinkedIn. So make sure you go ahead and connect. And if you have any questions or thoughts about today's show for me or our guest here on the Rockstars Rocking Show, please don't be shy. Put them in the comments section below. And look, and Jess, you've done podcasts and you do LinkedIn Live. They're not easy. They're a pain in the butt sometimes. I don't do it all myself. So for everybody behind the scenes at the Rockstars Rocking podcast, I'm Eric Silverman. That is and was and will always be Jessica Dubois. And you've just listened to another incredibly fun, at least for me, Rockstars Rocking podcast. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, Rockstars, keep rocking.